I'm Elbert Van Strien. I'm a Dutch writer-director, also a bit a producer. Later on, I also became a producer. I have graduated a long time ago already, in '93, from Dutch Film School. My graduation film won Best Short and was nominated for the Student Oscar. Then I was making some things for TV drama commercials, and then I really found out that this was not the direction my career should go, because it made me really unhappy. So I decided, or from the beginning, after film school, I really wanted to make certain kind of genre films with deeper layers, with deep resonance. So this is what I was really after, and it was very hard to make these kind of films in Holland. But so I first made some shorts, Forbidden Eyes in 2002, and The Hidden Face in 2004, and Still World 2005, and then finally these guys at the film fund decided this guy is capable of something, so we should give him money for a feature. It was a long trip to the feature, but I've managed it, and now it's going really well. I will make my next feature in June. Well, that's very funny story how that started. It was 10-12 years ago. I was stuck in my life, and a friend of mine suggested a certain kind of alternative therapy, and I thought, I don't know, but what the heck, I have to try something. So I found this kind of therapist in the neighborhood. And when I came there, quite soon she suggested that my dead brother was with me, and that he didn't want to go away. Which is of course terrible for a therapist to tell you, because you arrive with a problem, you leave with another one. But quite soon after, I decided this is really a silly idea, I don't believe in this. But for me it was a good outcome, because I thought this is a great start for a story. Because when you really believe that it's real, it is reality. It becomes real. It's really there. So, and yeah, that was the start. So Staring is a story about reality, about how we create reality by the way we look at things, and how sometimes that can influence our fate to a great extent. This is for me the main thing of this. Of course there are other things in there, but this is the main thing. So this is what I try to set up with the story. Well, I like I'm an admirer of the American cinema from the 70s. Films like Parallax View, Taxi Driver, Chinatown, Rosemary's Baby, Godfather, of course, and those films. Films where the genre aspect goes hand in hand with the auteur filmmakers, the view of the filmmaker. The voice of the filmmaker. So this is what I really like about these films. I'm not an admirer of, or I don't like genre films per se that are only commercial films. In fact, I don't hardly watch horror films in that sense. I mean, I don't like films with a lot of gore or blood, or I'm really fond of the psychological aspect, but my influences are also from other filmmakers like Ingmar Bergman, Antonioni, Kubrick, who's an American, but you could say he's a European filmmaker. And so I've influenced from quite wide, but and of course, yeah, Polanski and Nicholas Rowe and Hitchcock were in my first days at the film school. He was quite important to understand cinema, the way you shoot a film. But it's always, it goes hand in hand, these two sides. So it's I think it's the genre film is a great opportunity to make a great film that communicates with the audience, and under the surface there's much more to be found. So this is what I really believe in, that it has moral dilemmas underneath, and philosophical questions maybe underpinning it. Depends on the film. This is what I always am looking for in cinema. And I think genre film can really has great opportunities or chances on to make great cinema in this sense. Yes, it is a story about a family who moves to Belgium from the Netherlands, moves to Belgium after the mother inherits her parental home there, and the nine-year-old daughter Lisa discovers there's a girl in the house who tells her that she's the dead twin sister of her mother, and that she knows a terrible secret about her. So this is the start for the story, where you, of course, first don't know if the girl really exists, or if there's really a ghost, and this ghost becomes more and more a threat for the family. Yeah. Well, Isabel is...
It's incredible.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thanks to her. I mean, she's the one who did it. But she's, it's really great. I found her. It was her debut, and I think she's a really very talented girl, very talented actress, and she's. I saw her as an old soul. The way I directed her, I told her, well, this is the scene, we are going to do that, and this is what you think, this is what you feel, and this is what you're afraid of, and all this stuff. And then she said, okay. And then she did the scene even better than I imagined. And there was one scene that really made me cry on the set. That was the moment that that Karen takes over her body, and that she looks to herself at herself in the mirror, and she touched her face, very sensitive but very eerie. And she did that in the first take so incredibly perfect that I was amazed, and I was like, it really made me cry. It was so well done. So there's really an inner life there, and that's and I, of course, when I saw her, I only saw 25 girls through this film, and she was already there, so I was lucky.
Did you give her a lot of directive before shooting? Because she seemed to play in à l'intérieur.
Yes, yes.
We saw smile few times. There is a beautiful scene on the
motorcycle.
On the motorcycle.
Yes. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Actually, that scene is one of my memories of my father with me. So he was like that, shouting to me. And at the time, as a child, you don't know what it means, but later on, when you're an adult, you understand this was his love, for his way of expressing that. So Yeah, I, I treat children the same as I treat adult actors. I don't think there's really a difference. I'm not going like that's really ridiculous to go that way, or to treat them as little kids is really ridiculous. They are also capable of understanding the story, understanding what's going on, and when you tell that, you create this inner life in that way. But of course, you need to cast it really well, so you need to understand that they really understand it, and that they are capable of expressing it. But for me, there's, besides from the way I had to approach her for this particular scary project in a different way, there's no difference. Maybe it's nice to tell that how about the alternative. So what I did for her to make this work with well, how do you do this with a scary movie with children? That is the question. So what I did was I wrote a second screenplay in which I gave away the ending in every scene. So she knew what was going on in every scene before so it took away all the scariness of the movie. And so then it's quite easy how she would for her to play the film. It's difficult to tell about this in particular because it gives away the ending if I go into more detail. Barry is a very famous, very good actor. He plays the father. He's quite famous in Holland. He did several very successful features. And Ed Hadewig is also known, but less known as Barry. So, but both are very good actors. So I work with a casting agency, and then you see a lot of actors, and there was a lot of actors who want to play my films because they read the scripts and they see it's very layered. So this is what they really like, of course, and there's a lot of actors who are interested in my films, and so I see a lot of actors, and Barry was really the right person for the role for me, with the way his appearance is the right way. It's the right. Actually, when he came in first, he was different. He had a, I don't know how you say it. Yeah, it was very neat and very, and then I thought, no, this is not, this some...
Aren't you more rock and roll?
Yeah, and so the second time he had different clothes on, and he got what was really going on, because then he had read the script, so he's a very experienced actor, so he knows how to do it, and he's very, very, very good. So and for the actors, Hadewig, I found her quite late. I had found Isabel first.
Yeah, it was my...
And there was another Dutch actress who was going to play the part, who has brown hair and brown eyes, like the daughter. But due to personal circumstances, she couldn't do the film. So suddenly, I think 2 months before the shoot, I was not having my actress. And I was lucky that Hadewig was still available, but she's blonde and has blue eyes, so I changed her. She has a wig. I turned her to look like the daughter, and I think that we succeeded in that. Yeah. It's a house in the neighborhood of Ghent, and we heard about a lot of castles or that are there's a canal between Ghent and the coast where there's a lot of old money or a lot of old houses that used to have. It used to be a very rich part of Belgium. So we heard about that canal, and then what we did was we bought a map, a bike map, with where you can bike a route there and visit all the castles. And we visited all the castles in one day, by car, of course. So 30 castles in one day, and this was number 6. And we came there and we thought, whoa, this is... We had some hesitations about the pillars. We thought maybe it's too big, but this house came back in our imagination time after time, and we had this feeling it's very... there's a musicality, and it's very poetic. Also the surroundings of the house, and so we didn't visit the interior in our first visit, but later on we came back there and we thought it was all there. It was like that. So there was a woman, a 90-year-old woman, who moved out of the house, and she was in an old people's home. And she didn't want that she didn't want that anything would change in the house. So her family was waiting, and all these old furniture and old wallpaper, it was all there. So we came in and we thought we only have to take away some stuff that doesn't fit in our colors, in our spectrum of colors, and move the furniture and take the modern stuff from the family with us, of course. So and we were ready to shoot. It was really really lucky also. Yeah. We had our first working title was Dood Meisje, which means dead girl. Then I came to the Cannes market and I saw the dead girl there, so I decided to change it into Zwart, which means black water. Then I came to Berlin, and there was at the market in Berlin, and there was a crocodile film from Australia, like that, called like that. And then I thought, well, I'm not going to change it anymore because it sounds right in Dutch for it has the right resonance in terms of the genre, and it fits with the story. So we decided to keep it, but to use another international title, To Our Staring. And in fact, I think that title is better than Blackwater because it fits much more with what the theme of the story is. But you know, To Our Staring in Dutch is a bad. That doesn't sound so. For me, the film is about how we create reality by the way we look at things, and this is what is also worked out in the Blackwater, because in the beginning you see that there's black water coming out of the tub, and of course in the beginning it's an old house, you know, nothing special. So, but later on in the film it happens again, and then the father looks at it in a different way. He thinks it's some occult, this is a bad place. In fact, black water is a term from voodoo, and it means that this is a bad place to be. Bad things will happen. So this is in combination with how it sounds in Dutch, like the resonance it has in terms of genre, and of course the black water plays another role. It's a detail. It's a role in the plot of the story in the end. So there are several ways to see it. Well, sound is very important in a genre film, especially a horror film, because you know there's a lot of suggestion, and you build the atmosphere in a great way with sound. Well, I work with great people who were very inspired to do this film because of that, of course. So in the sound, we emphasized the house as a character.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what it's hard to talk about this because it has to do with your senses. You know, it's not about intellectual ideas. It's more like what feels right. And sometimes the sound is almost like music, and it goes. You know, music and sound is sometimes the same, and the way it's used. So for the music, I had I've made use of two composers instead of one. Maurits Overdulve is one of them. He's very good in orchestration and in Prokofiev like score.
Mm-hmm.
Very a bit difficult in the harmonics, but very sensitive and very which I like the difficulties of that. I like. I think I hate it when the music is too simple or stupid. But it's telling the story really in the same way. But I worked with him before, and I knew that for the horror scenes I needed to have another composer to do that, to make it really scary. So Han Otter was really great in that, so I decided to go for him for the. So they worked together on this film, but also exchanged melodies. Because it had this was the great challenge, that it was still one score and not two composers, that you feel it's two composers at work. So this was what was the challenge, and then it turned out during the making that both were also doing each other's parts. So because the one for the horror stuff sometimes did a very orchestrated part, and the other one a horror part. So it started to mix, but it's sort of still the division. Yeah. A portrait of what we feel, right? I mean, and. No, I think for that scene, there's several things to say about this. I mean, it's very important for a film, and a genre film especially, maybe, is that you really feel for the characters, and that they are really human beings, and real characters, real human beings. So what you always are looking for is stuff that's authentic. So when you can use something from your own life that you remember, then of course you put it in. That's. It was also very important that this love from the father was there in the beginning. So because it adds depth to the emotional story, or the tragedy of the story. Because even with the love of the father, this incredible tragedy is happening. And in fact, there was a different outcome of the film at first, but we decided to change the ending in the editing. That was an interesting process, and I'm still hesitant if it was the right choice. But but when you regarding Nouvelle Vague, I love Nouvelle Vague. I also love films of Antonioni, Alain Resnais, Bergman. So I have also a very European approach on cinema, and maybe there is some influence of that in the film. I don't know. It's hard for me to say. It's you direct a film and you make a film of what you love to see, what you love to make. Well, that's a very...
in France it's a big problem, but...
That's unbelievable. I don't believe my ears. I have the feeling that it's not necessarily... I start to understand it's not necessarily a Dutch problem, but it's a European problem. Because this is what I also hear from guys in Germany or Sweden. It's starting to change now with Let the Right One In. But a friend of mine 6 years ago made the first vampire film ever in Sweden. So it's very hard to make these kind of films in Europe. And in Holland, I've heard for 15 years. I came up with stories. Producers came to me and said, "You're a great director. Come with stories," and I came with ideas or stories, and they said, "No, this is something else, because we can't finance this in Holland." And it made me mad, because I thought, this is what I really want, what I believe in. This is what I really want to make. And I think it's not superficial stuff what I make. I think it's really stories with an emotional resonance, but also with things we can ponder on.
Yeah.
So, but still, I've heard year after year, this doesn't fit in our policy from especially Dutch broadcasters. And I had the feeling at the time already, but this feeling starts to grow, that it's a European problem, that there's a certain tendency or a certain tendency to of what kind of cinema should be made in Europe. And the broadcasters, they are very focused on Berlin, Cannes, and a certain type of social realism or art house films, and at the other side in Holland we make book adaptations and children films, and that was the whole spectrum. So in 1999 I came up with a manifesto for the imagination with some other filmmakers. It was underwritten by 70 filmmakers in Holland, and crew and actors, and which was it was in the press and the front papers at the time. Really to make to create possibilities for. It was a very positive manifesto. To create possibilities for genre films, for fables, for fairy tales, whatever, fantasy, referring to great filmmakers. It is a problem. It took me years to make a feature in Holland, and of course I could have made. There were other features that came on my path. There were people said, "Do you want to direct this?" And I said, "No, this is not what I've chosen to do, for what I want to do. This is not my type of cinema." So I decided to stick to my own stories. And suddenly now it's starting to change. I feel suddenly now with all the interest coming out from the States, but also here in Europe, and there's suddenly a change, and they think, well, this guy is capable of something. And so, and yesterday I heard that in France there's also a tendency in this, that the auteur idea is in the way of, or is blocking great filmmakers to make genre films, because genre films are seen as inferior or worth less, which is for me silly and missed opportunity. I mean, because I think especially in genre films, it's very hard to make a genre film, because I have the feeling that sometimes people look down on genre films. But it's more difficult to make a very good genre film, because there are much more rules you have to that have to fit. You know, it's very difficult to make a genre film because there are much more things you have to watch out for, and especially when you want to make a film that has the depth of a meaning. I mean, so for me, what I hope is that other great filmmakers in Europe start to grab these opportunities to make these films and turn them into great auteur films. I mean, because that will be fantastic for this kind of genre. It has it's a crossover film. Yes, I see that. It is a psychological thriller with horror shades or horror elements. That's what I. But you know, it's also. You can also say it's a ghost story. In the end, I can't say that, but you know, it is. Yeah, but it's also the combination I'm really looking for. The combination of thriller and drama, you know, because that adds the emotional depth of the story. In a way, in fact, it's a Greek tragedy we are watching. I mean, and from the beginning on, was. You know, one of the inspirations or ideas for the story was these articles in newspapers of families where fathers kill their families and then commit suicide, or mothers do terrible things to the kids and kill them. And it's very easy to judge on these people who do that. Well, how can a father do this to their kids? But what I wanted to achieve is that to show it from the inside and slowly to create a story where you slowly start to understand that why this is happening, why, and to show it from a human side. So in the end, you can't judge. You can't say he or she is evil. You have to just accept it's very human, and it can happen to all of us. So this was one of the ideas, not to portray one of the characters as evil, but as human. So well, there's a film greenlit now, which I will do. It's a crime comedy, a bit Coen Brother-like comedy. So I really look forward to that. It's a completely different thing from what I did, but well, very funny story. So that I will shoot that in June, and then there are two other projects. I have the scripts ready for those. One is called Out of Mind, which is a futuristic thriller, and it is that will be a European co-production, Dutch, partly English spoken. So we try to raise money for that. And there's another project called, which is a working title, Marionette, and that's a remake as a feature of my graduation film, which won Best Short at the time, and that will be an English language feature. And there's a very experienced American producer who wants to produce that. So when that will happen, it's a great breakthrough for me. So and then we will shoot that in Scotland in America. So that's a great story about a great concept about a child psychiatrist who he's from America. He starts up a new life in Scotland after his wife got killed in an accident. And when he arrives in Scotland, he's still mourning. How do you say it? Yeah. Mm-hmm. But towards the children, I think he's very compassionate and professional. And one of the children in the clinic is a 10-year-old boy called Manny, and Manny tells him that he makes everything happen. He can what he draws will happen, and he has also created a psychiatrist. And at first, of course, the psychiatrist thinks this is a very interesting case. How can I help or heal this boy? But slowly he starts to feel that the boy might be right and that he is a puppet on a string of the boy. So this is a story about fate and free will, about religion, about in fact Schrödinger cat is also playing part in this story. So it's a very complicated story, a supernatural thriller, but also quite philosophical, but also very tense, horrifying genre film. Well, it's fantastic. It's great. You know, it's picked up. The rights are picked up by Charlize Theron, and she's. I know there's a big studio interested to come on board on that. So, which is really great. I mean, it's great for me as a director because suddenly people start to know, hey, who's this Dutch guy? We missed something. So all the big studios in LA have seen my film now, and out of that, you know, I have a manager in LA because of that, and I was there for a week. I had 17 meetings in a week, and I saw great companies. And I was at Lionsgate, and the guy there told me, you know, it's very hard. There are hardly any thriller directors who can do this so well. And I said, come on, I don't believe that. He said, no, it's true. I said, well, come with the projects. I mean, I'm open to that. I mean, but so it's really surprised me that this what he told me. But no, it's fantastic because, you know, and I will not direct a remake. It's not something that from the beginning I've said no. That's not something I'd like to do because, you know, I've spent so much time on this film.
Yeah, of course.
And I don't want to live in that same arena.
Turn the page to.
Yeah, exactly. So I want to move on that. So my hope is that because of this, all this that happens, that other doors are opened also in Europe with finances like Studio Canal or you know that say, hey, listen, what do you have for the next project? And hopefully they give me money, become involved.